It's Kevin Williams and Bob Batters of the Shore Sports Network one more time previewing this weekend's games. And this weekend's games are a little bit bigger than others. It is championship weekend across the state of New Jersey. The Shore Conference is guaranteed at least one, as many as 6 sectional champions. And Bob, we start with what is a huge day at Rutgers University, and it begins early for the local clubs.
It does. There's 4 games at Rutgers High Point Solution Stadium on Saturday. Shore Conference teams will be playing in all 4 games, and it starts with the Central Jersey Group 2 final at 10 a.m. Point Borough against Hillside. And Point Borough trying to finish off an undefeated season and win their first state championship since 2005, when the Panthers also went 12-0. So they'd certainly like for a repeat to party like it's 2005, so to speak. They have a Hillside team that comes in 8-3. Won a close game over Johnson in the semifinals. They are a very explosive team. They have an 1,800-yard passer, 2 1,000-yard running backs, both of whom are averaging over 15 yards a carry. So if you're Point Borough, you say, okay, we need to eliminate the big play, and that's certainly going to be on their minds. And but you look at Hillside this year, when they've played good defenses, they haven't scored a ton of points. It's a 19-16 win, as I mentioned, the semifinals, and a 14-12 win earlier in the season. So a good defense can hold them down. That's what Point Borough is, a good defense. The only team to really score any substantial points on Point Borough all season was Lakewood in the 35-34 comeback win for Point Borough. So you look at some of the teams they faced a variety of different offenses. You don't worry about them being not prepared for the team speed of Hillside, because they've had a game against Lakewood, who's great team speed, and also Monmouth Regional, which has some players that can get on the perimeter. So, from that standpoint, Point Borough's prepared. I think they've proven up to this point with their body of work that they're ready. This is a championship team. It's just a matter of getting it done. Offensively, if they don't turn the ball over and the offensive line plays well, I mean, they're just good. They're really good at what they do, running that option. And I really like Point Borough to come out and come away with a win. I picked them to win in the preview. I posted up on the website earlier today, and I think they'll go out and get it done.
Triple-headed monster offensively of James Farrer, Tanner Gordon, and Brandon Cipriano has been tough for anyone to stop of late, especially a very impressive win over Manasquan to get into the final. So if you do breakfast at Rutgers, a little eye-opener before the Point Borough game, you're ready for lunch when another team looks to complete a perfect season, and that is our #1 ranked team. They've been there all season long, and that's Manalapan.
Right, the Braves coming in into another state final. This is a common theme. 6 times in the last 7 years, Manalapan's been in a state final. But unfortunately, another common theme for the Braves is they've only won 1 time. That was back in 2014. So they haven't had a problem getting to a state championship game. It's been about closing it out. And I think even throughout the regular season, obviously we're impressed with what Manalapan's done, and certainly their senior running back, Naeem Mayfield, which we've gotten into it extensively, both here on our radio show and also online and in print. I mean, what they've done has been incredible. But we're not surprised Manalapan is at this point in the season getting ready to play for a state title. So it really becomes about, can they finish it off and get it done? And they have an opponent that they're no stranger to them, South Brunswick. They've met in the playoffs multiple times. Both programs have 1 state championship in their history. Manalapan beat South Brunswick in 2014, and South Brunswick beat Manalapan, I believe it was 2013, 2012 to win their state championship. So they've played in the playoffs. Last year they played in the playoffs. Manalapan got a win. 2 years ago, when South Brunswick actually won it, they beat Manalapan in the semifinals. Right. So again, these teams very familiar. South Brunswick has a game against Brick Moral they played this season and had a pretty convincing win there. So they're a strong team. Manalapan, though, they're the better team. You look at the comparative records. Manalapan's undefeated. They have a shutout win over Piscataway, which beat South Brunswick. It's just a matter of going out there and getting it done. Naeem Mayfield, he plays first before Friedels and Shante Worthy, so he's probably going to break the Shore Conference rushing record, and then after that we'll see what Worthy can do, see if he can eclipse what Mayfield does. It starts with him on the ground. He's got over 2,500 rushing yards. A state record, 46 total touchdowns this season, along with 276 points this season, which is also a state record. The question is going to be, if they can find a way, as South Brunswick now, to slow Mayfield down, coming out and make plays in the passing game. They have an underrated quarterback in their senior Luke Corcione, who most of the time he just turns around handing the ball off to Mayfield, but he has over 1,200 yards passing. They have good receivers, good tight ends. Again, it's a loaded Manalapan team.
Yeah.
They have the #1 offense in the Shore, the #1 defense in the Shore. We fully expect them to get it done, but we know it's not a guarantee because of some of their past struggles. So, of course, they'd like to erase that, finish it off in emphatic fashion, and be the first Braves team to go undefeated.
Closest game they've had all season was 21-point win. And I will say this. I hate to use the word pressure when you're talking about 16 and 17-year-old kids, but for Manalapan, there really is pressure because anything less than a championship in this season would be a disappointment, which is hard to say, right?
I agree. I mean, you have to call it like it is. And maybe the players don't feel it as much. Maybe the coaching staff feels it a little more because a lot of those guys, certainly head coach Eddie Gray, they've been there throughout this run. The players, probably there's pressure just because it's your last high school game for, obviously, the seniors, which comprises a large majority of this group, and this senior class is very strong, a special group for Manalapan. There's pressure probably on the players and on the coaches, a little different to each, but yeah, there has to be. I mean, you're 11-0, you've been the #1 team in the Shore since the summer, you're expected to win here. Can they get it done? That's the question.
Okay, so that was lunch, and now maybe you're going to have a little something before dinner. So at 4 o'clock, the guaranteed Shore Conference Championship comes when Freehold plays Long Branch in the Central Jersey Group 4 final. And this is a rematch of the game played less than a month ago.
It is a good one. You might spoil your dinner with this snack because you're at Freehold versus Long Branch for the Central Jersey Group 4 title. A rematch of a Week 9 game that Freehold won 27-20 in thrilling fashion. A game that came down to the final seconds with Long Branch driving. So, we hope from a standpoint of covering the game and as a fan too, watching that we get another classic like that. Freehold comes in after a 35-28 win over Brick in the semifinals. That was 2 weeks ago. Long Branch was shocked on Thanksgiving Eve by Red Bank Regional 21-20 in overtime. Long Branch came into that game 8-2. Red Bank came into that game 1-8. So from that standpoint, we know Thanksgiving crazy things happen, but nobody saw that coming. So for Long Branch, it's can they turn it around emotionally and get back in there and play as they're capable of. The thing I imagine Danny George, Long Branch head coach, has said to his team is, you go out there and you win on Saturday, nobody's going to remember what you did on Thanksgiving. They'll just remember that you're state champion. So there's that task. The other task is, can we even slow down Ashanti Worthy? I mean, a state record, tied for the state record, single season, 55 touchdowns. He's got over 4,400 combined yards, which is a state record. He's tied for the Shore Conference single season rushing record with Long Branch's Demir Willis. He had 2,589 yards back in 2014, which is a mind-boggling number. And Willis did it in 11 games also. So, again, for Long Branch, can they slow Worthy down? If they do, they got a chance to win. It kind of looked like they did in the regular season game. Then you look up at the end of the day, he's got 500 combined yards. So even when he has an off day, he's going to go for 350 and about 3 TDs. So to me, that's it for Long Branch. How much can they slow Worthy down, if at all? And can their offense make some plays when it counts, to pull out a victory? Because you got to like Freehold. What they've done, 7-game winning streak now going into the finals, and an unstoppable player, maybe the most electric player in the entire state.
Of course, one thing Long Branch does have is great team speed, and that may help him with this difficult task. And then there's the nightcap, and that is Rumson. Rumson makes a reservation for the first Saturday in December every year to be at Rutgers. Somerville becomes the latest victim of this, the Purple Bulldogs, who have just been on an amazing run when it comes to the state finals.
And I'm sure I'm sounding like a homer at this point picking all of our teams, but yeah, I mean, you have to give Rumson the edge. The Bulldogs have won 4 consecutive NJSIAA sectional titles. They're going for their 5th, and if they can win it on Saturday night, they'll be just the 2nd Shore Conference program to accomplish that, joining Manasquan, which won 5 in a row from 1998 to 2002. Of course, under the legendary Vic Caboo. I mean, those are some incredible teams.
Amazing, yeah.
And Rumson's right there. I mean, just to be on the precipice of winning 5 in a row is amazing, given the amount of turnover you're going to have throughout that period. And Rumson they continue to get it done. And Somerville is a high-scoring team. They have a lot of different players that contribute. They can throw the ball. They can run the ball. But again, you're talking about going up against a Rumson team that in the playoffs has allowed an average of 8.2 points per game in their last 21 playoff games. And that's a big sample size. You can't score on them in the playoffs. So when it matters, Rumson gets it done. And the common thread throughout all of that has been their head coach, Jerry Schulte, who's been the head coach. This is his 2nd year as Rumson's head coach. He's been the defensive coordinator throughout this, so he's going to have something, cooked up for the Pioneers. Last year, these two teams met in the semifinals. and Somerville was averaging almost 60 points a game. No one really thought that they could be stopped. So, of course, Rumson did it and won 21-13 in the semifinals. So, Somerville's going to be fired up, not just playing the state final, but for a rematch. But, again, Rumson's defense. Then on the other side of the ball for Rumson, oh, by the way, which in this year, it's only can you run for 2,100 yards and score 30 touchdowns and be an oh, by the way. But, yeah, the running back Peter Lucas has been incredible this season. Last time they played at Rutgers was this season in a loss to St. John Vianney, their only loss. And he was awesome with over 200 yards rushing. No team has been able to stop him. They rested him on Thanksgiving in a win over Shore. They rested several starters, Lucas being the most high-profile one. So he's going to be ready to go. And that offensive line has been an unsung unit, really opening up holes. So, again, I just like Rumson. From everything they did defensively with Lucas, quarterback Dan Harvey has shown that he can make some big throws when they need him to. And, again, in a championship game, can't pick against the Bulldogs at this point. Just can't do it.
Seems like Central Jersey Group 1 always has at least one, sometimes two Shore Conference teams, and it's one again this year. Maybe an unlikely one for about a month or so ago, but Point Pleasant Beach heads to Kane University on Saturday afternoon at 4 to take on a Middlesex team they lost to way back in September, this time for a championship.
Absolutely, and you mentioned Central Jersey Group 1 has kind of been playground for the Shore Conference teams in recent years. We've either won it or been in the final. I think going all the way back to 2005, 2006. It's been a long time. Yeah. Starting with the run those Asbury Park teams made when they won 3 in a row. So, and this season, even in the middle of the season, looked like it was going to be the same thing. But we had Shore and Asbury Park go down in the first round. That left Point Beach as the number 7 seed. But the Garnet Gulls have had a tremendous postseason. 2 comeback wins, beating the number 2 seed Manville, then the number 3 seed Bambrook, both on the road to get to the final. So yeah, a little bit unexpected from that standpoint. Point Beach started off 3-0, then lost 3 in a row to go to 3-3, and then won 2 in a row after that to qualify for the playoffs. And here they are playing a Middlesex team, which they lost to 28-12 in week 6, I believe, and that was their the last loss in that 3-game losing streak. And as we talked to Coach Wagner, on our radio show, they are a much different team now, Point Beach, than they were at that point. They've got Chris Weber back, who's an outstanding running back and also a key defensive player for them. A couple of offensive linemen they didn't have at the time, and they're just playing well right now. A big thing for me is John Wagner is a Hall of Fame coach for a reason. You're going to play a team twice in the season, and certainly if you're playing better now, I mean, he doesn't really lose those games unless the opponent is just that much better, which Middlesex is not. Point Beach is right there, so I have a lot of confidence that Point Beach is going to come out with a game plan and kind of be able to throw some different things that Middlesex hasn't seen. Wagner's so good at doing that. And Middlesex is a team that's going to throw a lot of different things at you. They run the triple option, so you know what it is from a defensive standpoint if you're Point Beach. It's assignment football. I'm sure they have their game plan of what they want to take away, and they're going to try to execute it. So I just like Point Beach from the standpoint of they're playing much better than they were the first meeting, and Wagner, his adjustments have been great in the playoffs. When they won their state title in 2013, it was a rematch against Shore. They got blown out on Thanksgiving. Yeah. They come back and win a tight one. Again, throwing out some wrinkles that Shore hadn't seen. So, I think there's going to be a tight game, but Point Beach, the way they've been playing, the way they've been rallying in the second half, everything that goes with that, a veteran coach. I like the Garnet Gulls on the road over at Kane.
The few, the proud, the beach. And they've got a great 4-year, two-way starter and quarterback Luke Fraunheim to lead that team. And then if Saturday isn't enough, Sunday you need a game. So they're going to hold one at Rowan, and it features Mater Dei Prep with a really tall task, the last of the Shore teams to play.
They do, and I think if you look at all of the Shore Conference teams, the 7 of them playing in sectional finals, I think you could probably look at Point Beach and say, yeah, they're an underdog just because of Middlesex being 10-1 and beating them the first time. Mater Dei is the other one, and it's crazy to say because Mater Dei, they have 1 loss this season. They're the defending champs after going 12-0 last season. But St. Joe's Hamilton is a storied program. The Wildcats have 25 sectional titles all time, which is up there in the state. I think only Paulsboro has more. And they're in the finals every year. I mean, they've owned this bracket, non-public Group 2, and back when it was non-public Group 1, forever. Every year you look, we're at these games and we show, maybe we have a game after, but we go, oh, look, 61-0, St. Joe's Hamilton just beat somebody else. And that's kind of the way it's been for many years. And last season, Mater Dei knocking them off in the semifinals, 26-0. a lot of people perceive that as maybe a changing of the guard in this bracket. Is Mater Dei now the new dominant small school parochial team in the state? And St. Joe's last year 7-4, very uncharacteristic for them. So what do the Wildcats do? They come back this year with basically the same team, pretty young last year. They're 11-0. They scored 515 points in 11 games, which is a single season school record already. And from everything, the research I've done and just looking at, you know, their social media accounts and their website, they are geared up for Mater Dei. I mean, they heard the chatter last season, and they are looking to, you know, reclaim their throne and say, hey, you know, yeah, you got us that 1 year, but we're still the kings of this bracket. So from that standpoint, certainly a tall order for Mater Dei. But you can't. How can you count out the Seraphs, given what they've accomplished these last 2 years and what they did in the semifinals? You know, they're down big to Holy Spirit, which is a very good team. Came back and won 35-34 in thrilling fashion in the second half. Their quarterback, George Pearson, is the leader of that team unquestionably. He's played, this will be his third state final he's played in. He's won 2 of them, including as a freshman at Matawan. And they've got some good playmakers around him. I mean, it is a tall order because you know what St. Joe's Hammond they can bring to the table, and the Wildcats are the favorite. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Mater Dei pull out a shocker because they've done it in the past. And this group of Mater Dei kids, they're going into this game expecting to win. They don't really care who's on the other side. So, and that's going to be a pretty fun one to see how it plays out down at Rome.
That's why he's the best in the business. You can read his detailed previews on the games this weekend at shoresportsnetwork.com. You can also check all of us, our football picks, the Atlantic Physical Therapy Center football picks on the website as well. And of course, we'll be back after the season is over. We've got our postseason awards and all of that. So for all the best in high school football, stick to shoresportsnetwork.com. I'm Kevin Williams, and for Bob Batters, have a great football weekend.